Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and today I will be discussing Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Dark Artifices trilogy, and I'm so excited to talk about it in today's video. Since this is the second book in the trilogy, this video will contain spoilers. I am going to start this video by talking about my thoughts in a spoiler-free section, so if you haven't read this book, you can still continue watching it, and I will warn you guys before I jump into the spoiler section. Also, if you haven't read Lord of Shadows, beware of the comments because the comments may contain spoilers. So in case you don't know what the first book, Lady Midnight, is about, it basically takes place 5 years after the ending of the Mortal Instruments series, and it follows our main character, Emma and Julian, who are pair bataille. In the Shadowhunter world, pair batailles are forbidden from falling in love. So 5 years ago, Emma's parents have been murdered, and Emma is really determined to find out the killer. But also throughout this book, she and her pair bataille, Julian, kind of start developing feelings for one another, and things go from there. That's a pretty vague synopsis of Lady Midnight. I highly recommend that you guys read the other Shadowhunter books before starting Lady Midnight. I know there are so many Cassandra Clare books out there, but honestly you would have a much better reading experience reading Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows if you have read the previous books in the Shadowhunter Chronicles. So beginning with my spoiler-free thoughts of Lord of Shadows, I loved it. I thought it was an amazing sequel. I have fallen in love with the Blackthorn family since reading Lady Midnight, and my love for them continues to grow in Lord of Shadows. I also really love the different plot lines within this book. In this book, there's this cohort who are advocating restricting the rights of downworlders, and in case you don't know what downworlders are, they are vampires, werewolves, warlocks, and fairies, and members of these cohorts are really passionate about restricting the rights of these downworlders, and the whole political climate in this book is very reflective of our world today. In this book, we do get more passages told in the point of views of characters that I wanted to learn more about. For example, we have a lot of chapters told in Kit's point of view, and then we have some chapters told in Diana's point of view, and I especially really liked learning about Diana's backstory. Overall, I ended up rating this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book, and I am very sad that we have to wait 2 years for the third book in this trilogy, because the next Cassandra Clare book that's coming out around this time would be the first book in the Last Hours, which is going to be a new Shadowhunter series, and I'm so excited for that, but I just hate that I have to wait 2 years for the last book in this trilogy. Now I'm going to jump into the spoiler section, so if you have not read Lord of Shadows, you need to exit out of this video or else you will be spoiled, and that is no fun whatsoever. So please exit out of this video if you haven't read Lord of Shadows, and if you have, then keep watching. Just like the first book in Lady Midnight, this book begins with Kit's point of view. I've really grown to love Kit in this book. I didn't really like him as much in Lady Midnight, but that's because we didn't really know him. And I really loved his friendship with Livy and Ty. I loved all the different adventures that they went on and all of their interactions. Kit is definitely a Herondale. He has some of the most sarcastic and funniest lines in this book. He's just very typical of a Herondale. You can definitely see it with how he acts and the way that he speaks. I love Kit's character arc. In Lady Midnight, he basically wanted nothing to do with Shadowhunters, but now he has found a place where he feels at home and where he feels he belongs, and it just makes me so happy. Just a side note, I ship Ty and Kit so hard. I love that once Kit is like living in the institute, Ty just kind of follows him around and sits outside of his room. I just think that they're so cute, and I can't wait to see where their relationship develops in the third book. So like out of all these ships in this book and all of the like potential couples in this book, Ty and Kit are definitely like my number one. Obviously I want Emma and Julian to be together, but honestly I don't like hardcore ship them. So at the end of Lady Midnight, Emma and Mark begin this kind of fake relationship in order to get Julian to stop loving Emma, and obviously we know that this whole fake dating situation isn't going to make Julian stop loving Emma. I'm really glad that Emma told Christina that her relationship with Mark is completely fake and she's doing it in order to protect Julian. I really love her friendship with Christina. I love that they are really open with one another. I'm glad she didn't have to pretend and that she didn't have to lie to Christina. At the beginning of this book, Jace and Clary are somewhat present, so we know that Jace proposed to Clary, but we didn't get Clary's response to his proposal in Lady Midnight. When Clary is talking to Emma, we find out that Clary said no, and the reason she said no is what concerns me. She says no because she thinks she's going to die, and she thinks it's going to happen pretty soon, and that just terrifies me. It makes me so nervous. I do not want Clary to die whatsoever, especially with one of the deaths that happened in this book, it makes me nervous that Clary might die in one of the future Shadowhunter books. I don't know why Cassie is doing this to us. Like, why is she putting these feelings of fear for the character's life? This is some sort of foreshadowing thing, and I hope Clary is going to be completely okay by the end of the whole Shadowhunter Chronicles, but knowing that Clary has this feeling just makes me really scared. And then she asks Emma that if she does die to tell Jace that she knew and that she did want to marry him, but she didn't want to marry him if she knew that she was going to die, and I'm just feeling a lot of emotions right now. Going back to the fake dating with Mark and Emma, I'm so glad that relationship did not last very long and that they didn't actually like develop any feelings for each other. In other books where there is like a fake dating relationship, characters tend to develop feelings for one another, but I'm so happy that Emma and Mark's friendship was strictly platonic. Let's talk about Zara Dearborn. The Centurions arrive in the Institute and we are introduced to this character named Zara Dearborn, and we find out that she is Diego's fiance, and immediately I knew I wasn't going to like her. Everything that came out of this girl's mouth was just making me livid. I was so angry at everything that came out of her mouth. She needed to leave. She was so frustrating and her character just makes me so angry. There's also a part towards the beginning of the book where Julian and Kit goes to the shadow market, and on the way back Kit says that one of Julian's brother is weird, and Julian automatically assumes that Kit is talking about Ty, but Kit basically says that he's talking about Mark and that Ty isn't weird, he's just autistic. Knowing that Ty's autistic isn't surprising because the author portrays a lot of signs of Ty being autistic in Lady Midnight and throughout Lord of Shadows, and it kind of surprises me that Julian has never heard of the word autistic before and how little Shadowhunters know about like the mundane world. But it's awesome that we have this representation of a character who's autistic. And then Gwyn shows up and he tells Mark that Kieran is basically imprisoned by the Unseelie King because he killed Aerlith, and Kieran is now sentenced to die, and Gwyn wants Mark to save Kieran. At first Mark says no, but then later he runs off by himself to go to the fairyland, and of course Julian, Emma, and Christina follow him in order to help him. And in this Unseelie land we learn that runes, seraph blades, and witchlights are basically useless, and that just had me really nervous because I feel like Shadowhunters heavily depend on all of these items, so I was just really nervous that something bad was going to happen in this fairyland. And while these four characters are in the fairyland, we have Ty, Livy, and Kit who go spy on Zara, and we learn that Zara wants to basically get rid of Arthur and have her father replace Arthur as the head of the LA Institute, and together they are going to try to implement this downworlder registry, which is terrible and just makes me hate Zara even more. Before Emma goes into the fairyland, they come across this creature called the Fuka, and the Fuka tells Emma that she will encounter a loved one who has died. Immediately I knew it was going to be one of her parents, and so when Emma has to battle the Unseelie's King's champion, we find out that this champion is Emma's dad, and I'm pretty sure everyone knew that that wasn't actually Emma's dad and that it was some sort of illusion. And then back at the LA Institute, Malcolm Fade has returned, which is not a surprise at all because everyone knew that Malcolm wasn't actually dead. If you don't see a physical body that is actually dead, then that character has not died. But what happened next is what surprised me. So we know that the Blackthorns are going to London, which makes me really excited because I love going back to old places that we've read about. But when the portal was open to the London Institute and all the characters went through except Arthur, I had a feeling that Arthur was going to sacrifice himself. And Julian meets with the Seelie Queen, and the Queen basically shows him this kind of glass that allows him to see what's happening at the LA Institute. We see Arthur basically running out and confronting Malcolm, and Malcolm kills him. And then Annabelle rises and Annabelle kills Malcolm. I honestly didn't think Annabelle would kill Malcolm. I thought they were just going to run off together and plan something in hiding, but Annabelle killing Malcolm was definitely a shocker. After all of this happens, the Seelie Queen tells Julian that she knows how to break the Père Bataille curse, and she will tell him how in exchange for the Black Volume, which Annabelle has, and she will also end the cult piece and bring Helen back. I've read quite a few theories that people have on how the Père Bataille bond could be broken. There were so many great theories that seemed very plausible, but the ones that I've seen are ones that Cassie has responded to, and she basically says, no, this is not how it's broken. And one of those was that Cortana could break the Père Bataille bond. So I'm really looking forward to the third book and reading about how this curse could be broken. And so now most of the Blackthorns and Kit are in the London Institute. And in the London Institute there is a character named Bridget. And immediately that name rung a bell because there is a character named Bridget in the Infernal Devices. And on Cassie's Tumblr, she answered a question about Bridget, and basically, Bridget would have to be like about 140 years old, which no one lives up to that age. Possibly one day, but at this moment, no, that's not possible. Cassie basically says that Bridget is not immortal, she's just long-lived, and that we'll learn more about this whole thing in the last hours. And in the London Institute, we have snippets of Jessamine being present as a ghost, and I really love that Kit is able to talk to her. And even though Jessamine wasn't my favorite character in the Infernal Devices, it's nice to have this little snippet of her. I also wanted to talk about Gwyn and Diana. When Gwyn meets Diana, he's really like into her and he wants to ask her out, and I thought this pair was just really cute. And then we learn that Christina and Mark are bounded together, and then we have a scene where Ty, Livy, and Kit go to the Shadow Market, and obviously trouble ensues. Livy ends up being injured and passing out, and seeing Ty's reaction to everything just makes me so sad. He blames himself for what happened to Livy, and I really like seeing how supportive Kit was to Ty. I really love the moment that Ty had with Kit following this incident. I love how supportive and understanding Kit is of Ty, and that just makes me happy that Ty and Kit have this sort of connection. So Kieran finds a way to meet with his brother Aeon, who is basically like the good brother. During this meeting, Christina is eavesdropping on their conversation, and then Eric shows up. Eric says that the king has sent these riders called Manin 7. These riders are much older and much more powerful than the Wild Hunt, and they are basically sent to retrieve the Black Volume. So we have like half of them going to Emma and Julian, and then the other half going to Ty, Livy, and Kit. Emma ends up killing one of these riders, which no one has ever done before. These riders are basically supposed to be invincible. Nothing is supposed to kill them, but Emma uses Cortana and is able to kill one of them. And I know that this death is going to come into play in the third book. These riders are just going to continue to seek vengeance. When Ty, Livy, and Kit are facing these riders, I was really scared for them. I love this trio so much, and I wanted nothing to happen to any of these characters, and I really love that Gwyn saved everyone. And then Jamie shows up. So Jamie is Diego's brother. I was very suspicious of his intentions. After a while of Drew hiding Jamie from everyone in the Institute, she finally lets Christina know that Jamie is there. I just wanted to have them talk longer and to talk more about the things that happened concerning why Christina left the Mexico City Institute in the first place. And we learn from Jamie that he has this family heirloom that allows the person wearing the heirloom to enter into fairy undetected, but that's all he knows about the heirloom, and he wants to learn more about what it does. And then we have the scene where Drew touches the heirloom and she is transported to the fairyland, and that scene just had me really scared for Drew because she's 13 years old, she doesn't have much experience, and she doesn't have any weapons on her whatsoever. When Drew is in the fairyland, I'm not exactly sure whether she's in like the Unseelie Court or the Seelie Court, but she encounters this boy who is about her age. So Christine from Poland Bananas books has this theory that Sebastian and the Seelie Queen had a child together, and she thinks that this boy is the child of Sebastian and the Seelie Queen. But we also learned that in this book, the first child of the Unseelie King was taken from him. So could this 13-year-old fairy possibly be the king's first child? Who knows, but I'm definitely intrigued. So Emma finally tells Julian about the Parabatai curse, and I'm just so glad that this thing is out there between them, and I was just so relieved because I hate it when characters keep secrets from one another. And Julian tells Emma that the Seelie Queen knows how to break the Parabatai curse, and it involves using the Black Volume, but doing so will destroy every single Parabatai bond in the world, and that's just insane to me. Again, I'm just so interested to see how this whole storyline will play out with the whole Parabatai curse and Parabatai bond. Finally, in this book, we learn more about Diana's backstory. So in Lady Midnight, Diana was a pretty shady character. By the end of the book, we've learned to trust her, but she still has her secrets, and in this book, we finally learn about her backstory, and we find out that Diana is trans. She opened up to Gwyn, and that whole passage of Diana telling her backstory to Gwyn was just so beautiful. It makes me so happy that Diana is able to become the person that she wants to be, but it also makes me sad because it prevents Diana from being the head of the LA Institute, and if she was found out by the Clave that she was trans, then the Clave would know that she used like mundane medicine in order to transition, and that would lead her to be imprisoned, which I don't really understand why that's such like a huge problem in the Shadowhunter world. Maybe we'll learn more about that in the third book. So Julian and Magnus have a talk. Julian tells Magnus that he is in love with Emma, and Magnus's response to what Julian should do was surprising because Magnus basically tells him and Emma to tell the Inquisitor what's going on. And so Emma and Julian do actually go talk to Robert. They basically propose to him that Emma should be exiled, which should help weaken the Parabatai bond and postpone the Parabatai curse. And one of my favorite moments in this book is when Helen returns and we have this whole reunion with the Blackthorn family. Ty sees Helen and then Livy sees Helen and she starts running into Helen's arms, and it was such a beautiful moment. Before the whole meeting begins, Magnus passes out, and Magnus was basically supposed to be the anchor in this meeting to help control everything that's going on and make sure that nothing goes out of hand. So of course in this meeting they make Annabelle hold the mortal sword. You know, I had that thought, like, why did they make Annabelle hold it? Like, couldn't they make Zara hold it? I don't know, but everything basically goes terribly wrong after that. Annabelle ends up killing Robert Lightwood, which was really surprising because I really didn't think Cassie would kill a character from previous books. So since Robert dies, the whole plan of exiling Emma is no longer available. Annabelle starts freaking out and going on this kind of rampage. Emma ends up using Cortana to shatter the mortal sword, and then Annabelle takes one of the pieces of the mortal sword and she stabs Livy in the heart, and that moment the tears started flowing. My heart was breaking. I was a sobbing mess. I just could not handle that. About like 10-15 seconds before Livy was stabbed, I knew that she was going to die because she was trying to make her way to Julian, and Julian was constantly telling her, Livy, get back, get back. But she kept pushing forward, and the second that sword went through her heart, I can't. I felt like there was like a few foreshadowing scenes of Livy's death. There was a beautiful scene in this book where Julian and Livy are talking, and Livy tells Julian that she wants to run an institute when she grows up. I really love that scene. And then there's also another scene where Livy talks about the clock, that when it chimes the hour, the gates to heaven open. Cassie could have had any other character say that line or have that scene with Julian, but she chose Livy, and it makes me so sad. I don't think I will ever get over Livy's death. I'm really starting to tear up now, but my heart just hurts for Ty because Ty and Livy had such a special relationship, and with Livy gone, I don't know how he's going to handle that, but I'm so glad that he has Kit. I know that Kit will play such an important role in Ty's life now that Livy is gone, and I'm pretty sure that Livy's death is basically going to be the turning point with Julian's character. Throughout Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows, we have so many different characters telling Julian that he has a ruthless heart, including Emma. There were multiple lines of Emma remembering that Julian's actions scared her, and I know that this death will forever change Julian because all he ever wanted to do was protect his family, but now one of his family members was killed, and that's just going to change him. Honestly, I've never cried this hard about a character's death since I read Allegiant, so this death definitely impacted me. So Annabelle just disappears from the scene, and we know that it's the Unseelie King that took her. With Magnus passing out, we learned from Alec that there are a lot of warlocks getting sick, including Tessa. Tessa and Jem were looking for some sort of cause or cure to the sickness, but that's all we get. So that story is definitely going to be more developed in the third book, and I hope everything is going to be okay. I don't want Magnus or Tessa to die. So overall, with my thoughts, I love this book. I really don't have anything negative to say. The final book is called Queen of Air and Darkness, and it will come out in 2019, which is 2 years from now. It's going to be a painful wait, but it's definitely going to be worth it. Again, I give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. That is all I have to say in this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Lord of Shadows in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!